few names in American criminal history evoke as much intrigue and infamy as Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow. Their brief but brutal reign of terror during the Great Depression carved their legacy into the annals of crime, transforming them into cultural legends. While their exploits have been romanticized over the decades, the truth of their violent spree is far darker than the silver screen has ever portrayed. The recent conflict exhibition at Moises Hall Museum sought to strip away the myth and expose the raw reality of their story, one that ended in a hail of bullets on a lonely Louisiana road in 1934. Among the many historical artifacts on display at the exhibition, spanning centuries of warfare and societal strife, was a chilling relic directly tied to their demise. A baby Colt slide-action lightning rifle, an instrument of death that played a pivotal role in their final moments, was loaned from the Scott collection. This weapon, once used for hunting large game, was one of 6 rifles issued to the Texas and Louisiana State Rangers in their carefully orchestrated ambush of Bonnie and Clyde. On the morning of May 23, 1934, that rifle, along with others, helped seal the fate of 2 of the most notorious outlaws of the era. The story of Bonnie and Clyde is not just about crime. It's about desperation, violence, and the harsh realities of post-World War I America. Both born into poverty, they were products of a struggling society, where the American dream seemed like a cruel joke to the working class. Bonnie Parker, a young woman with poetic aspirations, found herself shackled by an unfulfilling marriage and the bleak monotony of survival. Clyde Barrow, one of 7 children raised in the slums, had already begun his descent into a life of crime before their fateful meeting in 1930. Their love story, often glamorized, was anything but romantic. Clyde, hardened by prison brutality, had undergone a transformation that would turn him into a remorseless killer. During his incarceration for car theft, he endured repeated sexual assault, leading him to commit his first murder in an act of desperate self-defense. In a bid to escape his torment, he even resorted to self-mutilation, severing 2 of his toes in hopes of securing an early release. When parole was finally granted in 1932, Clyde emerged from prison a changed man, filled with rage and a thirst for vengeance. And Bonnie? She was drawn to his darkness, enticed by the adrenaline-fueled life of robbery and bloodshed. Their crime spree, initially fueled by small-scale thefts, quickly escalated into a series of brutal murders and high-profile heists. Law enforcement struggled to contain them as they cut a path of destruction across multiple states. Banks were looted, officers were slain, and innocent bystanders were left in their wake. The Bonnie and Clyde legend grew, aided by sensationalist media coverage and their own carefully crafted image as rebellious lovers on the run. Yet beneath the carefully posed photographs and the tales of outlaw romance, their reality was one of fear, paranoia, and relentless pursuit. By the time authorities decided that conventional justice would not be enough, Clyde Barrow had amassed 16 active warrants, 4 of them for murder, spanning across 4 different states. He had become an unstoppable force, a man who would rather die than face another prison cell. And Bonnie, forever at his side, was just as committed to their path, whether by loyalty, love, or sheer fatalism. The end was inevitable. The law would not let them slip away again. And so, in a carefully planned operation, officers prepared to end their rampage with unsanctioned lethal force. The Bonnie and Clyde manhunt would soon come to a violent, unforgettable conclusion. By 1934, Bonnie and Clyde had become America's most wanted criminals, leaving a trail of bloodshed and lawlessness in their wake. Their ability to evade capture for years had turned them into legends, but the relentless pursuit by law enforcement was finally closing in. The decision was made that they would not be taken alive. Texas Ranger Frank Hamer, a hardened lawman with years of experience hunting outlaws, was given the task of eliminating them once and for all. With the help of officers from Texas and Louisiana, he meticulously studied Clyde's movements, anticipating where they would next appear. On the early morning of May 23, 1934, Hamer and his posse of 6 officers lay in wait along a remote stretch of road near Gibbsland, Louisiana. They had carefully chosen their ambush spot, a secluded area with little traffic, ensuring that Bonnie and Clyde would have no chance of escape. The officers, armed with shotguns, Colt automatic rifles, and powerful baby Colt lightning rifles, knew they had to strike with overwhelming force to bring down the notorious outlaws. As Clyde's Ford the Fifth 8 approached, the posse signaled for him to stop. But Clyde, ever the fugitive, had no intention of surrendering. Before he could react, the officers unleashed a barrage of gunfire. The sound of bullets tearing through the air was deafening. Automatic rifles spat out rounds at an alarming rate, shattering the car's windows and piercing its steel frame. Shotgun blasts tore into the vehicle, ensuring there was no chance of survival. Clyde was struck first. A single bullet to the head ended his life instantly, his foot still pressing down on the accelerator as the car lurched forward. Bonnie, trapped beside him, let out a scream as bullets ripped through her body. There was no escape. Within seconds, the infamous duo was riddled with over 100 bullets. The relentless gunfire continued even after the car had skidded to a halt in a ditch. The officers weren't taking any chances. They approached the vehicle cautiously, their weapons still aimed, prepared for any sign of movement. But there was none. Bonnie and Clyde were dead. The once feared outlaws, who had terrorized multiple states, lay lifeless amid shattered glass and torn metal. When the gunfire ceased, the officers cautiously examined the bullet-riddled car. The bodies inside were so mutilated that they were almost unrecognizable. Clyde, the cold-blooded killer who had evaded justice for so long, lay motionless with multiple gunshot wounds, his head nearly destroyed by the first fatal shot. Bonnie, his devoted partner, bore the marks of a brutal execution, her body riddled with bullets, her once vibrant face marred by shattered glass and metal fragments. The lawmen had ensured there would be no return for the deadly duo. News of Bonnie and Clyde's deaths spread like wildfire. Crowds gathered at the scene, desperate for a glimpse of the notorious criminals. Some even attempted to cut off locks of their hair or steal pieces of their blood-stained clothing as macabre souvenirs. The bodies were later transported to a nearby funeral home, where thousands of onlookers came to witness the remains of America's most infamous criminal couple. The impact of Bonnie and Clyde's deaths was immediate and far-reaching. While some saw them as ruthless killers who deserved their fate, others romanticized their story, portraying them as tragic figures in a broken society. The media, already obsessed with their exploits, sensationalized their demise, further cementing their legend. Their bullet-ridden Ford the Fifth 8 became an infamous relic, now displayed at Prim Valley Resort and Casino in Nevada, a grim testament to the firepower that ended their lives. Despite their violent end, Bonnie and Clyde's legacy continues to captivate the public. Movies, books, and songs have immortalized their story, often blurring the lines between fact and fiction. The 1967 film Bonnie and Clyde, starring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway, played a significant role in reshaping their image, painting them as tragic antiheroes rather than ruthless criminals. Yet, the reality remains. They were dangerous fugitives whose reign of terror resulted in the deaths of law enforcement officers and innocent civilians alike. For those who seek to explore their final chapter, their graves lie side by side in Western Heights Cemetery in Dallas, Texas. Visitors continue to pay their respects, some drawn by morbid curiosity, others by a fascination with the myth that surrounds them. The tale of Bonnie and Clyde is just one of many that reveal the dark underbelly of crime history. Their story, though often romanticized, serves as a grim reminder of the cost of a life lived outside the law. They believed they were unstoppable, but in the end, they were met with the full force of justice. If you're fascinated by the real stories behind the world's most notorious criminals, subscribe to Inside the Secret World of Mafia Titans. Dive deep into the untold truths, the conspiracies, and the shocking realities of organized crime. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button now and uncover the secrets that history tried to bury.